The XC40 Recharge pure electric crossover is pretty much everything you'd expect a Volvo full EV model to be. This fashionable battery-powered compact premium SUV, the first of the brand's models to be available exclusively online, features a state-of-the-art, fully electric all-wheel drive powertrain that offers a WLTP-rated range of up to 260 miles on a single charge and an output of 408 horsepower. The drawback is premium pricing, but otherwise a lot of boxes seem to have been ticked here.
Electrification is the biggest change the motor industry has seen for decades, which for Volvo makes the introduction of its first full EV, this car, the all-electric XC40 Recharge Pure Electric, one of the most significant milestones in this Swedish brand's history. You might be surprised at the length of time it's taken for Volvo to bring us a full EV. This car was announced as recently as mid-2020, long after the marque became one of the very first to popularise plug-in hybrid electrification in its cars. Or conversely, if you know the market, then you might alternatively be really surprised that this Gothenburg maker is selling any kind of EV at all. This Swedish manufacturer's Chinese Geely parent company has, after all, got Volvo's all-electric subsidiary brand Polestar to showcase its development of full battery power. But Volvo wants and needs, in view of current European directives, to dramatically increase the sales percentage of its electrified models, and that can't be done merely by concentrating on mild hybrid and on plug-in hybrid engineering. Plus, the XC40 sits on the same CMA platform that's used for the Polestar 2 model, so it was pretty straightforward to create a milk float mobility version of this little SUV. Mind you, with 408 horsepower on tap, this car is a long way from milk float mobility. It'll soon be joined by plenty of other Volvo EVs. You can already talk to the brand about a lower powered, front driven and more affordable version of this one. The company's aim is, after all, to become a fully electric car company, and by 2025 the brand hopes that full EVs will make up 50% of its global sales, the rest being of petrol powered hybrids. As a step towards that, the company has tripled electric car production at the Ghent plant in Belgium, where the XC40 is made. EVs like this one now take up over 60% of the plant's capacity. The Swedish maker is confident then that people are going to like this car, and has good reason to be. The XC40 is, after all, the UK's best-selling premium compact SUV. And in 2020, Volvo was the #1 premium brand when it came to its share of sales of chargeable cars in Europe and the US. Even so, to give you some perspective, rechargeable Volvos only account for around a fifth of the company's total sales, so a lot of work still needs to be done to persuade customers to make the switch into plug-in power. So, will this XC40 Recharge pure electric model accelerate that process? Let's put this all-wheel drive version to the test and try and find out. No key is required to access this Recharge pure electric XC40. And none's required to start it either. The usual start button's not needed here. Once you've taken a seat and you've noted that the green ready sign is glowing on the instrument panel, you're good to go. Now, at first glance, the cabin here is just like any other XC40, although closer inspection reveals that the digital instrument display is a little different. It features a battery charge indicator and also a power meter that shows whether you're using charge or whether you're regenerating it. So, time to get on the move. Which, as so often in EVs, happens very quickly indeed, especially in this all-wheel drive pure electric XC40, which uses the larger 78 kilowatt-hour battery pack and twin electric motor setup, one on each axle, that we've already seen on the top version of the extremely rapid Polestar 2 EV Sports Saloon. There's 408 horsepower on tap. Yes, you heard that right. which seems like it'd be rather excessive for the needs of most customers, which is probably why Volvo's also offering lower powered front driven versions of this pure electric recharge model. But in this all-wheel drive variant, you have to have the gutsiest power pack, and that sprints you to 62 from rest in just 4.9 seconds, with more torque than you get in a Nissan GT-R super sports car, 660 newton meters of it, at which point the motor's spinning at a heady 14,000 RPM. The driving range on offer isn't quite what you'll get from that equivalent Polestar 2 or some notable rivals. Volvo quotes a best of up to 260 miles. Now that's 32 miles less than the Polestar 2's figure. The deficit is down to this XC40's boxier shape. To get that claimed mileage, you'll have to engage what the Swedish maker calls one pedal drive, and that's selectable from the driving menu provided in this centre dash screen. Now this dramatically increases the regenerative braking effect when you come off the throttle, to the point where, as advertised, the brake pedal will hardly ever be needed, unless you're coming, of course, to a complete stop. You can't alter the regenerative braking effect in any other way. Other than that, no driving modes are provided, although there is a screen button to firm up the steering. And Volvo provides an off-road mode which works at under 25 miles an hour to manage traction on poor surfaces or deep downhill gradients. Don't get too enthusiastic about the prospect of using that though. With just 176 millimeters of ground clearance, that's 35 mils less than the regular XC40. The kind of terrain that you'll be able to attempt will be very modestly challenging indeed, although Volvo does quote a 450 millimeter wading depth. Of perhaps more relevance is the fact that, unlike some EV crossovers, this one will be quite comfortable towing, and that's thanks to the even distribution of power between the front and rear motors. With the optional retractable tow bar, you'll be able to tug along up to 1.5 tons. But all of this will be largely irrelevant to most likely customers who will be more interested in commuting on tarmac terrain. It is over 400 kilos heavier than an equivalent all-wheel drive mild hybrid petrol XC40, and you certainly feel that both at speed through tight corners and over sharper bumps. That, along with the fact that even when it is firmed up, there's not a great deal of feedback through the electric steering rack, means that you probably won't be all that inclined to exercise all those braked horses. Of more importance will be this Volvo's laid-back cruising demeanour. Despite the spherical shape, the wind noise is well suppressed, and although you will hear tyre roar, that's only because there's no combustion engine chuntering away to mask it. With the priciest level of trim, the brand offers the latest version of its Pilot Assist driver assistance system for steering, acceleration and braking support, and that's there to help take the strain during long motorway journeys or when you're sitting in traffic. The latest version of this setup now uses Google Maps for information like speed limits and bends in the road to improve its functionality. And it senses if you're not grasping the steering wheel, at which point you'll be admonished with warnings that, if you ignore them, will result in the car being brought to a gradual stop. The main visual difference marking out this recharged pure electric XC40 model is its blanked off front grille, which is rarely a great adornment for an EV, and it isn't here. Otherwise, there's the usual robot-inspired styling, plus piercing Thor's hammer LED headlights and a clamshell bonnet. From the side, the battery-powered remit of this pure electric variant is difficult to spot. There's a recharge badge on the sharply angled C-pillar, but that's about it. Even the charging flap looks exactly like a fuel filler cap. Otherwise, this BEV XC40 variant has all the hallmarks of a well-equipped normal XC40, including a contrast-coloured Blackstone roof, high-gloss black integrated roof rails and big wheels, usually 19 inches in size, but they're 20 inches on this top twin Pro model. You might do better identifying this Volvo's zero-emissions BEV status at the rear. There's an identifying badge and, of course, tailpipes are absent. Like any other XC40, this one rides on the brand's compact modular architecture platform, and that's why it can roll down the same Ghent factory production line as its combustion-fueled range stablemates. Now, before we take a look up front, let's also mention this care key, which enables owners to set speed limits when they're lending their cars to young or inexperienced drivers, which is useful here given the provision of over 400 brake horses from this battery powertrain. Right, what about the interior? Is the switch to full electrification any more obvious at the wheel? Well, it isn't really, unless you happen to notice that the usual starter button to the lower left of the steering wheel has been blanked off. It isn't needed here. There isn't even the usual B setting on the auto gearbox, which most electric vehicles tend to have. So it's just the usual cool Scandinavian vibe, which has helped to make this the best-selling premium badged compact SUV of its kind. So you get digital dials, a dose of Swedish minimalism, and door cards made of a weird felt that's apparently fashioned from recycled drinks bottles. There are door bins bigger than any you'll have ever seen because the door cards don't have to accommodate big audio speakers. And the designers have somehow crammed the 9-inch portrait-style sensorless infotainment screen, which is used in larger Volvo models, and they framed it with these unusual Star Wars-style vertical vents. The provided digital monitors do, of course, have bespoke EV features. The 12.3-inch progressive driver display screen you view through this 3-spoke wheel has a speed meter on the left and a drive meter on the right. The latter shows you whether you're using battery charge or you're regenerating it. A small battery charge indicator sits at the bottom of the display, and between these gauges is a space that you can fill up with a navigation map or trip computer data, and that includes readouts on average energy consumption and the mileage that you've covered since your last charge. More EV features can be found on this 9-inch central console portrait touchscreen, which can show a location map with marked charging points, and it has charging and driving sections. The latter allows you to select a one-pedal drive option, which maximises the effect of regenerative braking. As well as its usual navigation, smartphone mirroring and DAB audio functions, this central monitor also showcases Volvo's pioneering new Android infotainment setup, which includes worldwide navigation with Google Maps, advanced voice recognition by Google Assistant, and access to the Google Play Store for a range of in-car apps. YouTube Music is also built in. The adoption of Google Assistant brings huge advances in voice control. It allows customers to control the car's major functions, to perform detailed web searches, and even to connect to Google connected devices at home merely by speaking. Otherwise, things are just as they would be in any other XC40. The seats are as supportive as they usually are in a Volvo, and you get lumbar support as standard with heating and powered operation too, provided you avoid entry-level trim. They come with textile upholstery, but you can add in this top model's leather or part leather trim as an option. Whatever your preference, this elevated seating position combines with these slim windscreen pillars to give you a really good view forwards. Over-the-shoulder vision, though, is slightly compromised by the kicked-up rear window line, but you won't have any visibility issues if your XC40 comes fitted with the 360-degree parking camera setup we're trying here. It's one of the best systems of its type that we've tried. As for interior practicality, well, earlier I mentioned the door pockets. They're nicely carpeted to stop small items from moving around, and they're huge. They're big enough to even take a laptop, and that's because the audio speakers that would usually reside down there have been moved instead to the top of the fascia. You also get this big illuminated storage area at the base of the centre stack, and that's complete with twin USB ports and a 12-volt socket, plus there's a wireless charging mat included too. Twin cup holders sit by this small stubby gear stick with a small lidded cubby just behind, which turns out to be a removable waste bin. A larger storage area is just behind that. Not so good is the lack of an overhead sunglasses compartment and the restricted size of the glove box that's almost completely taken up with the owner's manual, although it does include a neat fold-out hook for your handbag or for your Friday night takeaway. Other nice touches include the provision of a parking ticket clip at the base of the windscreen, and also the way that plastic payment cards can be pointed into slots in the lower dash by your right knee. Right, time to take a look in the rear. The rear of the cabin is exactly as it would be in any other XC40, and headroom remains generous even though the system battery pack is sitting right below your feet. Even this top model's panoramic glass roof shouldn't compromise head space too much unless you are exceptionally lanky. We're not so keen though on the way that the angled style of the rear C-pillar might create something of a claustrophobic feel back here for younger folk. If you have children, then do take them along to the test drive to make sure that they'll be happy here. The seat base doesn't unfortunately recline or slide, but the rear headrests are well placed and they're comfortable. And with this top trim level, they also fold down at the touch of a button on the centre dash touchscreen up front. There's also a central armrest incorporating a pair of cup holders, plus beverages can also sit in the provided moulded recesses in the little carpeted door pockets. In addition, there are netted seat back pockets, and you get little storage trays between the seat base edges and the doors. The vertical and rather futuristic air vents used at the front make an appearance back here too, and there are also twin USB-C ports along with heated rear seats, providing you avoid base spec trim. The central positioning of the battery pack means that boot space isn't compromised either. This standard powered tailgate rises to reveal 452 litres of it. There are some really nice convenience touches here, principally this neat divider which can rise and divide the space laterally to stop your shopping from sliding around here in the boot. The hinges of that divider even stand proud of its top, and that gives you hooks from which you can hang your shopping bags. Delve down under the floor and not much more space is available, and that's despite the fact that there's no spare wheel provided as standard. But you do get small compartments on either side. The 12-volt socket is on the right, and there are bag hooks on both cargo sidewalls. If you specify the optional retractable tow bar, the button for that will be on the right too. If you need more room, then a ski hatch is provided for longer items. That is some compensation for the fact that you can't have the useful 40-20-40 rear seat back split that some rivals do offer. Fold the rear bench forward and up to 1,328 litres of total capacity is revealed if you load up to the roof. That's only 67 litres less than you'll get in Volvo's larger XC60. Now, you might have noticed the absence of charging leads back here, and that's because they're stored elsewhere in the car. So let's go and take a look. Because no engine is needed beneath the clamshell bonnet, Volvo's used the space to create a frunk. 31 litre space, which is perfect for the two provided charge leads. It can't really accommodate much else though. It is worth pointing out, incidentally, that one of these standard charge leads is for a 3-pin plug. Some rivals charge you extra for that, and that 3-pin one is usefully long, 7 metres in fact. Volvo realises that it might need to be to reach a domestic socket. There is premium pricing here, but then that's also the case for obvious direct rivals. We'll get to those after we brief you on the asking figures required for this model. In this film, we're looking at the all-wheel drive version of this pure electric XC40, which is priced from around £50,000. You can also ask Volvo about a less powerful front-driven version of this car, which will be priced much closer to the £40,000 mark, but it's the all-wheel drive variant that's our focus today. That £50,000 starting figure gets you the base recharged twin all-wheel drive model. It's around £53,000 for the mid-range recharged twin plus all-wheel drive variant, and around £57,000 if you want the top recharged twin pro all-wheel drive we're testing here. With the government's plug-in car grant now capped at £35,000, you're on your own when it comes to the asking figures, whatever kind of pure electric XC40 you decide on. But it is worth pointing out that almost no one considering this car will be thinking in terms of purchasing it outright anyway. In most cases, they won't even be buying it from a dealership. This XC40 Recharge Pure Electric is the first of the brand's cars which is going to be offered exclusively online, which is the way that all future pure electric Volvos will be sold. I mean, you can still go into a dealership and order it if you really want to, but it's probably easier just to go online and order it from home, probably using the Care by Volvo subscription service. And that's the way that up to 95% of XC40 Recharge pure electric models are apparently likely to be acquired. Unlike traditional forms of finance, with Care by Volvo, there's no deposit or joining fee. There's just a clear monthly amount, which includes servicing, maintenance, wear and tear items and vehicle tax. Customers also have the option of adding in insurance or choosing to use their own broker. Two different Care by Volvo packages are being offered. The first is Care by Volvo Flexible, and that offers an open-ended 3-month rolling contract for greater flexibility and convenience. That might possibly be good for you if you want to use it to dip your toe into the whole EV ownership concept. The other Care by Volvo fixed package, now that lowers the monthly payment should the customer care to commit to a 3-year term. At the time of this test in spring 2021, prices for the all-wheel drive model chosen with the fixed package, they're ranging between £649 and £749 a month, depending on the trim level you decide on. Either way, just sign up in a few minutes online and the car is then delivered to your door. To give you some Volvo perspective on this car's price positioning, let's tell you that Recharge plug-in hybrid versions of the XC40 sit in the £37,000 to £43,000 bracket, but they give you less power and they can't be had with all-wheel drive. XC40 models with a non-plug-in B4 badged mild hybrid petrol power plant and all-wheel drive, they start from around £37,000, but again, there's a lot less power and obviously you have much higher running costs. So it's more relevant to compare this Recharge pure electric XC40 against compact SUV rivals from other brands that share its all-electric ethos. It's a size bigger than EVs like the Hyundai Kona Electric, the Nissan Ariya or the Skoda Enyaq iV, so in looking for obvious rivals, names more likely to figure on a realistic shopping list might include EV compact crossovers like the Volkswagen ID.4, the Tesla Model Y or the Ford Mustang Mach-E, which are priced from around £40,000. A likely XC40 customer, though, will want a premium badge, so they'll probably be drawn rather more towards models like the Audi Q4 e-tron, which costs from around £42,000, or the Lexus UX 300e, or the Mercedes EQA, which are priced from around £44,000. All these EVs compete most directly with the cheaper, lower-powered, front-driven version of this pure electric XC40 that we mentioned earlier. And do bear in mind that some of the rivals that I just mentioned have significantly smaller batteries, so they won't go as far between charges. Add in the kind of all-wheel drive system this Volvo has and a battery size to match this car's 78 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion pack, and you'll find that the prices of direct competitors will change substantially. Long-range all-wheel drive versions of the Model Y or the Mustang Mach-E, for example, wouldn't save you very much over this Volvo, and an Audi Q4 e-tron 50 Quattro would actually cost you slightly more. A slightly larger EV crossover with four-wheel drive, like the BMW iX3, would cost you around £8,000 more than this XC40. If, having considered all that, you decide it is an XC40 Recharge pure electric all-wheel drive model that you really want, then your next task will be to choose between the 3 trim levels that we mentioned earlier. Now, base twin spec gets you most of what you'll really need. Like all versions of this EV Volvo, it comes with all-wheel drive, a 78 kilowatt-hour battery, and of course, auto transmission, plus 2 charge cables, including a 3-pin Type 2 cable, which some rivals do charge you extra for. Key exterior features include full LED headlights, 19-inch diamond-cut alloy wheels, a contrast-coloured blackstone roof, power-folding mirrors, high gloss black integrated roof rails, keyless entry, dark-tinted rear windows, powered tailgate, rear parking sensors and auto headlamps and wipers. You get a very complete level of camera safety kit too. We'll brief you on that shortly. Inside you get a 12.3-inch progressive driver display screen in the instrument binnacle, and that replaces the conventional analog dials. And there's 2-zone electronic climate control. That's complete with Volvo's clean zone air quality system and a pollen filter. You're treated to sports pedals and multicolour theatre cabin lighting. Recharge branded Door tread plates featured too. There's a wireless charging mat, there's front seat lumbar support, and there's eco-friendly textile upholstery. There's a very complete media connectivity offering too, and that's accessed via a 9-inch centre console portrait touchscreen, and that now showcases Volvo's pioneering new infotainment setup. This Recharge Pure Electric model is the first of the brand's cars to offer this. It's powered by Android and it was developed by Google. The system includes worldwide navigation via Google Maps. It also has advanced voice recognition by Google Assistant, and it has access to the Google Play Store for a range of in-car apps. The adoption of Google Assistant brings really huge advances in voice control. It allows customers to control the car's major functions, to perform detailed web searches, and even to connect to Google connected devices at home merely by speaking. And of course, via the central screen, you can do all the conventional things too, like accessing an 8-speaker high-performance sound DAB audio system using Bluetooth or navigation, or linking in to Apple CarPlay and Android Auto smartphone mirroring. The touchscreen receives software updates over the air, so the system's functionality will continue to improve as the technology develops. And all of this is in addition to the Volvo On Call connected services platform, and that's fitted to every new Volvo. This enables customers to control various aspects of their car's functions from their smartphone or their smartwatch or their tablet. For example, the car's cabin, well, that can be remotely heated or cooled before your journey starts. The doors can be unlocked or locked, and you can make the car's headlights flash, or you can sound the horn to help to locate the car in a crowded car park. Extra functionality added into this pure electric Volvo includes mapping that shows the location of charging stations and route planning that will include stops at charging points if necessary. All of this then is included with base twin spec. If you want more, then the next stage up is the Recharge Twin Plus model. And with this, you get active bending headlights with an integrated cleaning system, front LED fog lights with a cornering function, front park assist parking sensors, and a heated windscreen too. Inside at this level, there's heat and there's power adjustment for the front seats, and there are memory settings for the driver's chair. Plus, there's a rear park assist rear view camera. There's also heat for the steering wheel and for the rear seats. And you also get a heat pump, which enhances cabin heating and cooling efficiency too in extreme weather in a way that'll optimize your driving range. If you want the full level of specification for your pure electric XC40, you'll need the top twin Pro variant we're trying here, recognisable by its larger 20-inch 5 V-spoke diamond cut matte graphite alloy wheels and premium metallic paint. This flagship model gets a power glass tilt and slide panoramic sunroof with sun curtain, auto dimming door mirrors, and upholstery that's trimmed in a combination of full leather and a material that Volvo calls nubuck, or you can alternatively choose the no-cost option of full leather upholstery if you want that. There's a premium sound 13-speaker 600-watt Harman Kardon audio system with a subwoofer, Dirac unison sound clarity, and Dolby Pro Logic 2 surround sound. You also get a very good parking camera 360-degree surround view setup, plus power folding rear headrests and some extra camera safety kit items that we'll brief you on in just a moment. A key reason for wanting to stretch to Twin Pro trim might be to get yourself use of Volvo's Pilot Assist driver assistance technology, which provides steering, acceleration and braking support to help take the strain during long motorway journeys or when you're sitting in traffic. This pure electric XC40 is the first Volvo model to feature the latest version of Pilot Assist. It's a system that now uses Google Maps for information like speed limits and bends in the road to improve its functionality. A new safety feature has also been added into Pilot Assist. Now, if the driver isn't holding the steering wheel while the system is activated, then they'll be warned in different stages until the car is automatically brought to a safe stop. Right, that's enough for standard kit. Let's take a look at options across the range. Now, if you stretch to this top twin Pro spec, the only extra thing that you might conceivably want is a retractable tow bar. With base twin and mid-range twin plus spec, you might want to add in this top variant's larger 20-inch wheels, metallic or premium metallic paint, and leather upholstery, either full leather or a leather nubuck combination. Other options are mainly the ones you can have on any XC40. You can give the car a more dynamic look by adding an exterior styling kit and a rear spoiler. And there are various special value packs that you can add for things like towing, roof or tow bar mounted cycle carrying or interior storage. Protection, outdoor and storage packs all give you moulded plastic mats for the cabin and for the boot. The outdoor pack, that adds in mud flaps and a protective grille separating the luggage area. The storage pack, that also gives you the grille and further adds a load carrier and a 400-litre roof box. Most of these items are available separately too. On to safety, which, as ever with Volvo, is a key focus. Now, despite not having an internal combustion engine to help absorb frontal impact in a crash, this electric XC40 remains one of the safest cars in the class. Volvo's engineers have totally redesigned the front crash structure as part of the switch to the full EV powertrain, as well as designing a unique safety structure for the occupants and for the battery. And as you'd expect, there's a wide range of camera safety features too. An autonomous braking system called City Safety is of course standard fit, and this system can specifically detect people and animals. There is also an oncoming lane mitigation setup, which not only stops you from dangerously pulling out into the path of an oncoming vehicle, but it can also steer you away from such an impact. In addition, you get a driver alert system that warns of driver drowsiness and the lane keeping aid that alerts you if you're drifting over the lane separating lines and subtly steers the car back to where it ought to be. There's also run-off road protection and run-off road mitigation too. And of course, there are all the usual electronic assistance aids for braking, traction and stability control. Plus, there's Volvo's usual WHIPS, front seat whiplash protection, and SIPS, side impact protection systems. And of course, you get a full complement of airbags too, and that includes a full-length inflatable curtain and a driver's knee bag. As part of the features of the Volvo On Call connected services platform, the emergency services will be advised of your exact location if those airbags are activated in an accident. And Isofix child seat fastenings, a speed limiter, road sign information display, and also a first aid kit also make the team sheet. As I mentioned earlier, if you want more, then you'll need this top spec Twin Pro model, which gets a blind spot information system with steer assist that warns you if you're just about to dangerously pull out in front of another vehicle, and which will apply steering correction to ease you back to where you ought to be. Also standard on this top version is cross traffic alert. Now that warns you of oncoming vehicles when you're reversing out of a space, and it's also able to automatically brake the car if necessary to avoid a collision. There is also a rear collision warning and mitigation system. Now that warns you of impending rear end collisions, and if one's inevitable, it'll take steps to mitigate the severity of that impact. It's all very reassuring. We've already given you this all-wheel drive XC40 Recharge Pure Electric model's operating range in our driving experience section, a maximum of 260 miles. That's for the base spec variant, by the way. The top trimmed model that we're trying here with its extra equipment and its larger 20-inch wheels is rated at 249 miles. Either way, the figures place this Volvo some way down the list when it comes to the range that you can expect from a compact EV crossover with all-wheel drive and a battery of comparable size to this Volvo's 78 kilowatt-hour battery pack. Thank the Swedish contender's portly 2,113 kilo curb weight for that. Designers of other comparable rivals have done better in trimming off the kilos, and that shows in the projected range figures that they deliver. A Tesla Model Y performance dual motor manages 280 miles, a BMW iX3 delivers 285 miles, an Audi Q4 e-tron 50 Quattro manages 295 miles, and a Polestar 2 long-range dual motor model with exactly the same battery pack and powertrain manages up to 298 miles. Meanwhile, the Ford Mustang Mach-E all-wheel drive 76 kilowatt-hour model delivers up to 335 miles. Even to achieve this Volvo stated figure, you're going to have to use a lot of the one-pedal drive feature, which maximises regenerative braking. Still, at least charging times are competitive. Overnight charging with a home wall box will occupy around 8 hours. When you're out and about, if you come across a 150 kilowatt public rapid charger, then you'll be able to replenish from empty to 80% in just 40 minutes. You can of course set charging times remotely, in this case via the Volvo On-Call app. On the move, a readout at the bottom of the instrument cluster briefs you on battery charge, and just above it there's a power meter gauge to show whether you're using charge or regenerating it. The same instrument screen can show trip computer data and give you average energy consumption and how far you've driven since your last charge. There are, of course, lots of taxation advantages in running an EV. With this one, as with its many rivals, you'll be rated at just 1% for benefit-in-kind taxation for the first tax year of use and at just 2% for the subsequent 2 years. Servicing will be at the same intervals as any other XC40, every year or 18,000 miles, whichever comes around first. But the bill you get should be cheaper because there will be fewer consumables to replace. Although remember that with an EV, tyre wear tends to be greater than with a combustion engine model. Most XC40 Recharge pure electric drivers won't trouble themselves with any of that though, because their maintenance will be covered by their Care by Volvo finance package payments. Customers can book a service directly from that Volvo On-Call app, and they can use the maintenance pickup and delivery service Volvo Valet, which allows customers to have their cars collected and then serviced and returned from the comfort of their own home. What else? Well, there's the usual 3-year 60,000 mile warranty, but the battery is covered by its own 8-year 100,000 mile warranty. Insurance for this powerful all-wheel drive model will be steep though. The car is rated up at Group 42E. Finally, residuals. According to the latest cap data, the XC40 Recharge First Edition is expected to retain 45% of its original value after 36 months and 60,000 miles. Volvo expects the cheaper front-driven pure electric models to have higher residual values. Initial cap data is said to be up to 47%. Volvo's keen to emphasise the efforts it's made towards environmental sustainability as a brand. That's now a key part of the company's ongoing operations, and it's all worth mentioning here because it's likely that part of the reason that you'll have wanted an EV like this one in the first place is to make your own contribution towards a reduction in pollution and in global warming. Volvo's ambition is to be a carbon neutral company by 2040, 10 years ahead of the Paris Climate Accord. In the short term, the company aims to reduce the life cycle carbon footprint of its cars by 40% between now and 2025, and to reach a point of climate neutral global manufacturing by the same year. The Swedish maker's other short-term ambitions include a 25% reduction in CO2 emissions related to global supply chain by 2025, and a 25% reduction in carbon emissions generated by its overall operations, including car production and logistics. It's also intended that at least 25% of the plastics used in every Volvo made from 2025 onwards should be fabricated from recycled material. That's the most progressive statement in the use of recycled plastic from any premium car maker. Even now, the XC40's door linings and carpets are made from 97% recycled material. Volvo was the first car maker to implement the global traceability of the cobalt used in its batteries. Traceability of the raw materials used in the production of lithium-ion batteries is one of the main sustainability challenges that's faced by car makers. This Swedish maker is committed to full traceability, and by applying blockchain technology, its customers can drive electrified Volvos knowing that the cobalt for the batteries has been sourced responsibly. The government talks about incentivising the sale of electric vehicles, but then progressively reduces buying incentives on them. Car manufacturers talk about wanting to increase the EV percentage of their sales, but then they price the full electric models beyond the reach of most buyers. It's a conundrum, and for the time being, it doesn't show any real sign of being solved. This XC40 Recharge pure electric model is a case in point. It's a very well engineered little electric vehicle, but like all its direct rivals, it costs quite a considerable amount. And then there are the usual EV issues, not only that you might run out of range, but also that you might turn up at a charging point and find that it's out of order or there's a queue. Or perhaps that you'll plug your EV in at night and then an hour later find out that you're required 150 miles away with only 80 miles charged into the battery. If a car like this is a second vehicle, as it will be in most cases, then these issues become less problematic. But until they're solved and until prices become more accessible, then more expensive EVs like this one, impressive as they are, will continue to be quite a rare sight on our roads. There are lots of things, though, that we like about what Volvo's tried to do here. The accessible Care by Volvo finance package, the sophisticated Google-based tech for the media and pilot assist driving systems, and the practical front storage area too. The brand's really thought carefully here, not only about what customers might want, but also about what they might really need in a premium EV of this kind, which makes this XC40 Recharge pure electric model a difficult car to ignore if you're seeking a premium compact crossover which allows you to more easily make the seismic switch into EV motoring. It's an electric vehicle, but with a bit more spark.